Looks like people are still joining us, so we'll just give it another minute or two before we get started. Okay, Dr. Frigo, do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to let you know that all participants are muted, and we will be utilizing the Q&A feature. For my screen, it's down at the bottom to submit questions. Please do not use the chat. Please use the Q&A feature. We'll answer as many questions as we can as I give it after I'm done giving a brief overview of our fall learning plan. So if we can go on to the next slide. The next one after that, sorry. All right. As you know, last Friday, we released our Decatur Public Schools Return to Learn plan for fall 2020. All students from PK through 12th grade in Decatur Public Schools will participate in virtual learning only for the first quarter of the 2020-21 school year. The first quarter for students this year will run from August 17th through October 9th. Next slide, please. We are also pushing the first day of student instruction back to Monday, August 17th to allow more times for our teachers and staff to prepare for virtual learning. August 12th, the initial start date, as well as the 13th and 14th will be designated for remote learning planning days to best prepare to serve our students. We also will be providing some parent professional development sessions and videos the first 2 weeks of August, and more information will be coming out about that very soon. Next slide, please. Complete details about the plan can be found on our website at dps61.org. If you look over on the right side there of the web page, you'll see a tab, Return to Learn. If you click on that, there'll be all the information you need about our Return to Learn plan. For example, and then it's updated all the time. Today, we added guidance document that would outline the guidelines for staff, parents, and students for COVID and assorted health issues. Next slide, please. I'd like to thank everybody, our principals, parents, students, teachers. We've had a lot of input and collaboration on coming up with the best plan possible for our students in the district. It's been a lot of great discussions, a lot of great input, and it is very appreciated. We are still working through all the details that go into planning for an entirely virtual start of the school year. We have some different groups we need to talk to, a couple other protocols that we need to address. But we're fully expecting within the next 24 hours to submit or broadcast and issue a more detailed plan. So as we open it up to questions, we may not have all the answers today you're looking for, but we're using this forum to keep identifying those areas that we need answers for our school community. And again, thank you for attending. Next slide, please. We'll start going through the questions that have been submitted and get through this as many as we can in the next 50 minutes or so. Again, please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions. And we have panelists here. If I cannot answer the question, I may turn it over to them to give their expertise on that item. So Denise and Maria, are we ready?
I think so. The questions are starting to roll in the Q&A.
Okay.
Do you want me to read them?
I'll try.
Okay.
And because they keep moving on me.
Sure.
One person asked, do the children spend the same amount of time on the iPad as they are in class? I'll turn that over to either Dr. Campbell or Mr. Dace. They have better detail about that. Can either one take that one on?
No, the average school day will be 6 hours and 25 minutes for students. They will not be on the device. We will recommend suggested times according to ISB guidance. However, that time may be face-to-face, or it may be some independent work that the teacher assigns, but majority of that time should not be looking at a screen.
With remote learning, will there be synchronous meetings for teacher and students? Yes, we fully expect there to be synchronous learning for our students so they can interact with the teacher to gain that instruction and learn the standard or the concept or the idea they're working on. Next question. My main concern for all this learning at home is how is my daughter that is turning 15 this year going to do driver's ed? So we'll have more information about that later. There were some provisions made for driver's ed this summer to allow for certain training to go on for the drivers under certain conditions. They limited the number of people in the car and the cleaning guidelines. We'll have more information about that moving forward. The question is kids with IEP. Ms. Horath, you want to talk about some of the plans for a student with an IEP, which is an individual education plan for those who are not familiar with our acronyms?
Yeah, definitely. With regard to our students with IEPs or individualized education plan, the case manager or the child special ed teacher will be reaching out to you to schedule an appointment to go over a remote learning plan that you can attach to the IEP. Now that can be done over the phone, or they may ask you to come in person to an IEP revision meeting.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. Next question is, will they get new iPads? I think we're going to be working on a plan to issue some students new iPads, but there'll be more information coming out about that later, but that's definitely something we need to address. When possible, when will we find out students' teachers? That's another one we're going to have to research unless somebody has that answer. Okay. There is an attendance requirement. Go ahead, Jeff.
Dr. Frigo, the schools are in the process of scheduling students now. So
okay,
I would say, I can't put a timeline on it, but let's just say they're in the process now of scheduling those students in their buildings. I just don't know the timeline. So it should be soon.
Okay, thank you. There's an attendance requirement. How does this work with students that both parents work? Will students be penalized for this if they can't access their schoolwork till later in the day? There is an attendance requirement. Participation will be monitored. We will have staff available to reach out to students who are having trouble engaging during the school day, and we'll try to address those needs on an individual basis. Why can't the teachers instruct the children using Zoom? I'll start and I'll have either Dr. Campbell or Mr. Dace add. We were looking at a variety of platforms to deliver instruction. Some of the feedback we got from teachers, students, and parents was try to limit the number of platforms we utilize. Because if you have students in multiple grade levels and trying to manage several different platforms at home, it became pretty difficult. So we were trying to streamline the number of platforms utilized. Mr. Dace or Dr. Campbell, do you have anything to add to that?
Zoom has an age requirement. I think it was 17 or so, and majority of our students are below that age requirement.
Thank you. Who is the owner of the online plan for learning from an administration standpoint? I'm not sure what they mean by that. We'll have to research that one and figure out how to answer that one. What specific supplies will we need for elementary students while virtual? Anybody have an answer to that one?
I do know that the YMCA is partnering with, the YMCA is offering their backpack attack event on Saturday. It'll be a drive-through. I know it will have general school supplies that they have always stuffed those backpacks with, but the district has not officially came out with school supplies list at this time, specific for each building.
How long will students need to be logged in? What hours will we be able to do remote learning with our students in the evenings only? There's the hour, how long and all that depends on age and grade level. Just either, does anybody else want to add to that answer? We'll have some more details in the future, but does anybody else want to add?
So right now, that's forthcoming. However, we anticipate that I think we're going to give the recommended times, and schools will be able to make their schedules. We will not govern that at the central office level.
Okay. When will school start? School will start for students on August 17th. Will there be a pre-K tuition for Academy of Peace? We're still working on a response to that one. I don't think we've landed that at this point, unless anybody has some updated information. Are the incoming 7th graders supposed to return their iPads they had last year or keep them?
Dr. Frio, I do recall, I think the new iPad purchase was for the grades 3 through 8th graders that we will be upgrading. There will be more information about how that distribution will take place, hopefully within the next week.
Several questions about tuition for pre-K students, so that's some information we'll need to get out fairly soon. Another question, what will virtual pre-K look like? Mr. Dace or Dr. Campbell or someone else on that one? I know that's still being discussed.
Currently, there is discussion taking place. However, we are looking to see the best process again for our early learners. Right now, we will look at some packets, but we are still in current discussion about what additional resources we can roll out to those students as we get ready to enter into this quarter of virtual learning.
All right. Another teaching and learning question, it looks like. What are the expectations for remote learning? Will students be required to attend Zoom sessions? How will you accommodate students who have two working parents, go to a daycare center that can't provide Wi-Fi or resources for this training? As stated earlier, we won't be using Zoom. Sessions will be using Google Classroom, Google Meets. I don't want to misstate that. What's the platform we're using for upper grades?
We will be utilizing Seesaw and Google Classroom.
Okay. And if you need specific accommodations regarding Wi-Fi or things like that, you need to contact your building principal and they will address your individual needs. Will teachers be available to help students and families with questions after we get off work during the evening hours? What if working parents need additional support after these hours? I think that's something we'll need to provide on our Q&A document.
If there's a question or concern after hours, then they will have like a 24 to 48 hour turnaround window where they can get back with the parent. But we do recognize that some questions will be after hours.
How will teachers teach students during the school day? How will class participation be handled? Anyone?
We're still determining that. And what was the last one about engagement?
Class participation be handled?
How will it be handled?
Yes.
Well, as far as documenting, we will take regular attendance, and participation will be off of the assignments that the teachers give. So the main switch is that this is not like spring remote learning, that the assignments will be graded. So teachers will have time to grade. So the activities that are assigned, the full expectations is that students complete them.
If you want to expand on that, Mr. Dace, it's a good segue to the next question. How is the virtual learning different than the remote learning plan that ended 2019-20?
Well, I think that's one difference, that the grades can be affected. As far as when we were in the spring, there was sort of a no harm clause. However, we're beginning a new school year, so teachers will grade the assignments, take attendance. During regular remote learning during the spring, we was just capturing engagement at least once a week. So right now, I think there's more accountability metrics as far as coming back to virtual learning when we return to school.
Will individual teachers give us parents an outline of the different topics for the first quarter so we know what is supposed to be worked on?
Great question.
Mhm.
I'm glad that question came up also. The district has been working on instructional planning guides to sort of give teachers a guide as far as what standard to address. So we also will want to share that out with the parents. So if you happen to go purchase some resources that can help, or request resources from the schools, you will know ahead of time. So yes, you will be informed of that.
For students who will be this is a similar question, at a daycare during the day due to working parents, what will be the expectations for logging in? Will work be able to be done on weekends, evenings, when parents are off work? I think there's a plan to allow for flexibility. And as Mr. Day said, the 24 to 48 hour feedback cycle. And there's an expectation of teacher feedback to students on a regular basis. Anybody have anything to add to that answer?
We recognize that flexibility is going to have to be incorporated in this process. So as the big thing that we will suggest is that communication is kept open between parents and teachers. And so if there's a situation in which a family was not able to get work or assist their student and needed to submit work, the goal is just to ensure that we are flexible on working with our students and our families to ensure that our students are progressing on this virtual platform, and the communicating back and forth will be a key component to that.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. To follow up to Mr. Dace, if not an iPad, what will the expectations of learning from a parent's role?
What was the question?
That went away. If not an iPad, what will be the learning method in the parent's role? I think that's what it said.
If not an iPad, meaning if they do not have an iPad?
I'm guessing what was written. If they don't have an iPad, they need to let us know, correct? And we'll make sure they get a device.
Right. We will ensure that all students do have an electronic device so they can engage virtual.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Will the students who enroll in innovative learning be able to do their remote learning from the museum? I believe there's a plans in the work for that to occur. We will get that answer for sure on the Q&A, but there is a plan in the works to allow that to happen. Next question, will preschoolers be provided a school-issued iPad? I'll take a shot, and if somebody correct me if need be, I still think there's a discussion in the works, but currently I don't think there's a plan to issue them an iPad. If that's incorrect, please correct me.
Yeah, it's still in discussion.
Okay.
The only concern that we have with pre-K is that they had no initial engagement on the iPad. However, we're discussing possibility of having agreements with the parents so we can load teaching and learning sort of like apps that they can benefit from instead of just having hard copy and paper packets all of the time.
Okay.
So normally they get iPads their first year in kindergarten, but under these circumstances, we do think it would be beneficial for them to have these electronic devices. It's just because this is their first time coming into the district, we have to brainstorm about the best possible way to actually roll that out.
Thank you. Will time devoted to instruction and the schedule for online learning be determined by the teacher, or will the schedule be district-wide?
Again, we'll give the recommended minutes. However, you're going to have varied schedules across the buildings. That will be a building principal-led decision as far as individual schedules.
Similar question. What if students will not have their parent home during the day? Are the teachers going to be available only during school time?
Most likely, most of the hours will be during school time. However, I think we have the understanding if a question comes after hours, that there will be a time window for teachers to respond and give some assistance.
What is the plan for 7th grade orientation? There's several buildings involved there. I'm not sure which one. Anybody have any thoughts on that, or is that something we'll need to research and get answered?
We've encouraged buildings to have their own virtual orientations.
Okay. How will grading work?
Regular grading procedures will be in place for grades kindergarten through 5th, standard-based grading, and for grades 6 through 12, traditional grading using the A through F system.
What accommodations are going to be made for social work or small group social emotional work? Will Zoom or Google Hangouts be used this quarter? There is in the schedule, there is time for planning for social emotional work, and there'll be time for social emotional supports to be provided to students in what the best setting available depending on the situation. Zoom will not be used this quarter.
And can I interject social work services?
I was going to ask Kathy for you to add for the social work side.
Thank you. We would expect our related services of social workers and speech pathologists to reach out to parents in collaboration with case managers to provide direct services either through a visual platform like Google Meet or through phone calls.
Thank you. Is there a certain time of day work has to be completed? I think that's going to vary by grade level, day, and subject, standard, whatever it may be. I don't know if there's a pat answer to that one. Anybody have anything to add? Okay. This is an extension to their question earlier. Do we have a set group of people managing this process from a technology standpoint to answer questions when we have iPad or login issues? Also, can we have a centralized place to manage all tech questions versus managing via an email only?
I can offer some input on this one, Dr. Frio. We are hoping to plan a similar parent professional development centered around technology. We are working with our IT manager to have other ways to manage questions for parents who are needing some troubleshooting assistance. I know in the spring we did have an email only option, but we are exploring possibly having a phone in option to where you can call, open up a web ticket so that a IT technician can get back with you. There's always the option to contact our schools as well to see if there was any simple troubleshooting things that can take place before we escalate it to the IT group. But be looking out for announcement with that parent PD session centered around technology, what you can do at home to get your iPad ready for your students to do virtual learning for the school year.
Okay, thank you. Oh, when will we know our students' schedule and expectations for live learning? Working parents need to provide our employers sooner than later. Well, we hope to have some more details out in the next 24 hours, but I believe that should be coming after that from each building as they flesh out their plans based on the guidelines established. Anybody have anything to add to that? I know that's not a very specific answer, but that's still to come. What will my senior do that was going to spend his afternoons learning at the Tech Academy? I met with folks from the Tech Academy Monday, and we're still looking at possible options for that and be looking for more information on that soon. Will pre-K have both afternoon and morning? Anybody have the direct answer on that? Something we'll have to get back to people on. Okay. We answered this question earlier, I think, about the virtual learning process for the pre-K program. What equipment do I need to have at home for virtual learning? The student should be issued a district device, but you need access to reliable internet at home to support virtual learning. The questions keep moving on me, sorry. Do we need to bring in iPads for updates since they have had them out of school since March?
From
Do we
what
know that, Maria?
yeah, from what I understand, as long as you plug in your device to a Wi-Fi service, we can push those updates centrally from the district out to the iPads. It's just important that you, what they call wake up the iPad and make sure it's plugged in so they can receive the updates from the district.
Next question, how will be able to communicate with a teacher? Is Dojo going to be used or some other method? Somebody want to review those platforms again, please? Seesaw and Google Meets, correct?
Right. Seesaw and Google Meets.
Okay.
I'm sure individual teachers have, other forms of communication that they will utilize with the teachers. I mean, with the parents.
With the parents, okay. How will we know what teacher, okay, we've answered that question. They want to know, are they going to get a phone call or in the mail for teacher notification? Do we know that yet? Okay, we will get that answer to them. Again, a question about the platform. We had that answered. Will there be video instructions for each child? We will have PD for the parents as well, but there'll be video instruction for every student at some point during the day. Again, question about pickup time for iPads. They didn't get one. Maria, you want to talk a little bit about that?
I can. For those parents that did not use their student issue device in the spring, those are still available for you to pick up. We will announce distribution dates likely from the school level. So you will receive notification through robocalls from your school principal about announcements for when that will take place.
Okay. Another question, what about households with multiple kids, 4 or 5 or more? I'm not sure what they're asking there. If it's about the number of devices, each student should have been issued their own device. If that's not the question, if they could clarify it, that would be appreciated. When will the class schedules be available? We still don't know what path my daughter is to be on. That's information that'll be coming, correct? What will assessments look like, such as FastBridge and NSGRA?
Yeah, the discussion today, we're going to make an attempt to still proceed with FastBridge. We are not sure about NSGRA because we want to get some type of baseline as far as where the students are at and to form the instruction even during these 9 weeks. So we're going to make an attempt at it. We know it's not under normal situations. However, we do need to get a gauge of where our students are at and, to meet their needs or to challenge them where they need to be challenged.
Thank you. Are there meals being provided for students? What will that look like? Yes, we'll be providing meals for students. What that will look like, we are still working on that plan. Currently, the guidelines that allowed for grab and go that we used this spring are no longer in place. We have to distribute meals in a point of service model, which means we have to account for each kid that gets the meal. There'll be more on that. We've had several meetings on that, and there'll be more on that coming forward, but there is a plan to get meals to students. What time will school be? I think that'll be information to come as they work through the schedules. Once they get the outline, if someone disagrees with me, say so. Okay. If a child has a doctor appointment, how do we address that with the school? You just would call the school and let them know that that is going on, so they're aware and they can work out a plan around that. What will preschool look like for those students enrolled in the pre-K 3 and pre-K 4 programs? Anybody have something on that? Or do we need to get back to them on that one?
They're right now, all pre-K, are having the hard copy devices. I mean, hard copy packets, not devices. You can't have a hard copy device.
Okay. This might be yours, Kathy. How will elementary students with mainstream general education minutes in their IEPs achieve their minutes? Will they be toggling between two classrooms?
It's a good question, and it's not one that I can answer for all students. This will be discussed in a remote learning plan, but what we've seen in the past is that cross-cat teachers or teachers who are resource only collaborate with the general ed teacher to make sure the assignments that are posted have extra accommodations in there and kids can access the special ed teacher for additional assistance.
Thank you. Innovation learning, what precautions are in place? Group numbers, nurse on site, health checks, how will kids be divided up? Any plan to be open 8 to 10 to accommodate staff with school-age kids?
Dr. Friel, we have Leslie on the line as a panelist, if she would like to take on that question for you.
Yep, I was just getting ready to turn that one over to her. Hi, Leslie. You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry about that. So innovation learning hours will be drop off will be at 6:30 in the morning and pick up at 5:30 p.m. We are not providing transportation. Parents will be responsible for dropping their children off and picking them up. As far as temperature checks, what I understand right now, as of right now, it'll be up to the parents to make sure that the child is safe and okay to attend the programming.
Leslie, there was a question on any consideration for the innovation learning to be open starting on August 10th to accommodate any of the staff members with school-age kids.
Right. Yes, thank you. We did have a phone call with Innovation Learning and the Children's Museum today, and we discussed that option. However, they are in the process of preparing some last-minute paperwork to accommodate the licensing, and we're not sure that that's going to be complete by the 10th. So they are pretty certain that programming will be able to be up and running by the 17th. However, we are not certain that everything will be in place and ready to go by the 10th. So unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be an option.
Thank you. What about our kindergartners coming into school? Will they receive an iPad? Plan is they will get an iPad. How we distribute it, more information to come. Correct, group? I see heads nodding. All right. How will PE, orchestra, and music ensembles be handled? I think that's going to be up to the teachers planning those activities and instruction in those subject areas. There's time allowed in the instructional day for that, but how it'll be handled, I don't have an answer for that. Does anybody have anything?
Dr. Frigo, I have a couple of questions that I saw on the Facebook comments. I just wanted to give you a little bit of a break if you don't mind me reading a couple of those.
Okay.
Will there be someone in the office to contact if there are problems? We will have staff in our buildings. Administration will be there. So if you do have any questions, I know that's your normal way to communicate and connect with our schools. So yes, please contact the school offices if you have any issues. Kathy, here's a question I believe will be for you. How will my daughter who has a teacher's aide included in her IEP be assisted with remote learning?
That teaching assistant will be reporting to work along with the teaching staff. So we will be putting in the remote learning plan time that is direct for the teacher or the teaching assistant or both to be interacting with the student.
Okay. Another question from our Facebook comments. With virtual learning done for our 3rd through 12th grade students, will it be safe to say that we will not need to print anything off at home for students to be able to successfully complete assignments? At this time, virtual learning is all done online. There will not be anything hard copy for print for our students. I don't believe there would be some packages available for our youngest learners at this time until we are able to find other resources to connect with them virtually. But yes, I'm assuming that since Mr. Dace or Dr. Campbell is not interjected, there will not be anything needed to be printed this time with virtual learning. I think you guys covered this one. Will there be standardized testing this year? I just want to re-ask that because I can't remember if that one was already addressed.
We're going to make the attempt to do standardized testing, but we're still waiting on recommendations from the state, which may change that.
Okay. I saw a question about, do high schools need uniforms? At this time, while virtual learning is in place for the first quarter, we just ask that they be professionally dressed. They don't have to wear their uniform, but they can if they want to show school spirit. We did add some new items to the dress code through our recommendation with the Student Youth Advisory Council. So as long as we are doing virtual learning, school uniforms are not needed. If we were to move into in-person, then yes, when students are in our buildings, if they do have a uniform code, we do expect for students to abide by that. Dr. Frigo, that's all I have right now from the Facebook comments, but we do only have 15 more minutes, and I just wanted to give you that heads up.
All right, thank you. Next question. My child is starting kindergarten, will have to go daycare 3 days a week. My husband and I are essential workers. Are we able to be flexible with teaching and catch him on the weekend when we are not working? I think that has been answered previously, but there will be flexibility and opportunities to submit concerns and questions, and a 24 to 48 hour feedback cycle will be in place for parents with questions. Next is, why is there a lack of answers? You've had time to plan this out. Why is there a delay in starting classes? Do you not have time to train teachers now? Our children's education is important, and you do not appear to be preparing accordingly. I totally agree. All children's education is very important, and we want to make sure we have the best plan in place and the best training in place to best prepare our teachers and TAs and others to serve kids when we roll this out on the 17th. I'm sorry that if you feel looks like we're unprepared, but we want to have the best plan possible that we can sustain for the first 9 weeks to give the kids the best experience they can receive. Kathy, this one will probably be for you. What childcare options are available for Macon Pyatt special education families since they may not qualify or do not qualify for innovation learning?
Thank you. I'm not really sure if they do or do not qualify for innovation learning. That might be a Leslie question, but regarding other childcare options, there's a variety of childcare providers who do take students with special needs. And I do believe Macon Resources is looking for additional help, so they may be able to reopen their daycare program.
Leslie, do you have anything to add to that answer about innovation learning? You're muted again.
Sorry. At this time, Innovation Learning is not equipped to handle students with special needs. We are having conversations with Amy Bleefnick at Macon Resources about utilizing their services for our students with special needs. We haven't landed on a decision right now. We're still in conversations with that. So we'll be sharing information with that about that as that comes along.
I got a Facebook comment. What about services for essential skills children?
Well, that would be through the remote learning plan and the discussion with the child's teacher. We want to be safe when we're delivering our services, but we do realize that essential skills kids, much like preschool students, may not attend to a screen for very long. So we'll be doing more direct time with the teachers to give packets and screen time with the iPad and just engaging.
Another quick Facebook comment that I saw. What about SAT testing for seniors that didn't take it in the spring? I'm not sure if we've seen any guidance on that yet. Does anyone have any comments for that?
I believe you're correct. We have not seen any national testing guidance from the state about the SAT. I haven't seen it. Jeff, have you?
What was that question again?
The SAT, has there been any update on about the kids that weren't able to take the SAT in the spring?
I did see something from the state that they were going to try to offer it to them in the fall. However, I can't be 100% sure on that.
Yeah,
I did see something that they were going to try to offer it to them in the fall.
We can make sure we include that in the FAQ.
absolutely. Maria, any others?
That's all I have right now. I'm still scrolling.
You may have addressed Heartland Tech, but I have seen several questions about that.
Say that again, Denise, you broke up.
Sorry, the Heartland Tech program, you may have already addressed it, but several people are asking for explanation about what that will look like.
That is still in the works. I had a discussion with Brett Hitchings, the gentleman who runs that program, and we're still looking at options on what that may look like for our students, and don't have an answer at this time. All right, is there anything else from you, Denise?
Not at the moment, no.
All right, the next question was, when are you going to post the specific remote learning schedule, please? Do we know that yet? Okay, well, that'll be something we need to answer in the Q&A. I can't read the next question, Maria. It's got to be moved up.
Oh, sorry. Will PE be a part of the first quarter virtual curriculum for elementary school students? I think we did already address that.
Yes. Will teachers be in the building during the school day to take phone calls, questions regarding instruction? Or should all questions be sent via email? Teachers will be in the building during the school day, and so you'll be able to call the school to get your questions answered. They may not be able to answer the phone right that second, but they will be in the building. We'll have more details about that in the near future. We have a kindergartner starting school this year, how many hours per day should we expect to spend helping him with virtual learning since we will not be able to read instructions, worksheets, etc.? Dr. Campbell or Mr. Dace, or is that something we need to get back to people on?
My cursor's messing up. You say they have a kindergarten starting this year?
Yeah, and how many hours per day should we expect to spend helping him with virtual learning?
Again, we'll give the recommended time. So teachers will be assigning assignments that will sort of like, for example, if it's 20 minutes, then they may give an assignment that will take up 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and parents, it will still be grade level material. So, but naturally, the younger the kids are, the more assistance they're going to need from their parents at home. But yeah, so it'll be within the recommended time frame for kindergarten students.
Next couple questions are around the question of checking in on a regular basis with their teacher. Yes, students will be expected to check in on a regular basis. As far as school start times, we'll have those announced soon as far as when school will start at the time they will start. That gets us down to the next one that's anonymous, Maria, that I can't read because it's covered up.
While she's doing that, we do have a question on Facebook about device distribution for students who don't have them yet, incoming new students.
There will be a plan published soon on how devices will be picked up for those students. It'll be very similar to what we did this spring, drive up, drive through, contactless as much as possible. But there'll be more details on that moving forward.
I do want to piggyback on that comment, Dr. Frigo. You please make sure that you do register. If we don't have a student record in our system, we can issue an iPad for those new students to the district. So make sure that you do have your registration completed as soon as possible so we can get those iPads and devices ready for your student.
Yes, so that's, I will reemphasize that point for a variety of reasons. A lot of questions about being able to contact your teacher being able to contact you. A lot of questions about devices, several questions about food distribution, several questions about special services provided for an individual education plan. It's absolutely necessary that you make sure you have registered with the district so we have the most up-to-date information so we can contact you in an efficient and effective manner to provide you the services you need, the technology support you need, the food you need, whatever it may be. So thank you, Maria, for mentioning that. That's what I was going to wrap up with, but it was an opportune time to tell people to make sure they are, and tell all your friends to make sure they're registered so we can properly serve each kid in our district. Another question about Richland in the afternoon. Again, we're working on what that may look like for kids at both of our high schools.
I gotta get out of here.
We have about 4 minutes left on the clock, Dr. Frigo.
If a teacher is sick, will subs be used, or will another teacher be expected to take on another class? We are working on both those options. But there will be a plan in place if a teacher is sick. You need to page up. I can't see past that one. For participation and attendance, is it acceptable to do multiple day assignments on the weekend rather than throughout the week? I think we need to research the proper answer to that because the state gives us guidelines on how to take attendance.
Hey, Dr. Frigo, I have the other meeting, so I'm about to go off. Thank you all for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Dace, for being here tonight and
All right.
answering so many questions.
Dr. Campbell's still here, so if you have any more teacher Larry questions, she can answer them.
All right. Maria or Denise, do you have any from Facebook or other sources before we wrap up tonight?
I've gotten a couple questions about why is it that we have chosen to go 100% remote when that's not necessarily the mode that other districts in our area are choosing.
Great. The reason we are doing 100% virtual learning is because we feel it's the best and the safest approach for our students and our staff and the community as a whole. We considered a variety of options. And we looked at the pros and cons of each, and we made a decision to go virtual to keep our students safe, our staff safe, and protect the health of the community as a whole. And we understand there's other options being utilized in the area. We just felt this was best for the Decatur community.
I think that's a great note to end on.
Thank you to the parents. We answered 81 questions through the Q&A. There's still 74 open. We'll capture all those and make sure we collapse and combine and get the by general theme and get all those questions answered on a Q&A on the webpage where we showed you earlier in the meeting. So thanks to the panelists for taking time this evening, and everybody have a great evening.